Hello Andy, hope you all are doing wonderful preparation. Welcome to our channel, this Civil Services in Detail, guiding aspirants to become officers. Let's begin our session of the Hindu Current Affairs Analysis and Answer Writing Strategies of December 22nd, 2025. Here are the most important articles, Andy. Monday kada, there will be definitely lots of articles relevant to your exams and having high chances of appearing in upcoming competitive exams too. So whatever it is required to clear your exams relevant to UPSC, APPSC, TGPSC, we are providing all the important updates from current affairs, as well as we are discussing these high probable topics from static part 2. ఏదైతే PYQs, MCQs based upon current affairs ఇస్తున్నామో try to answer them, and mains model answers questions ఏదైతే discuss చేస్తున్నామో and the content which we are providing and uploading in our official Telegram channel, please go through that too. So coming back to the paper, keeping a close watch on Bangladesh events, India. So last few days, the protest which going on, the unrest which is going on Bangladesh, there's a lots of discussions. There few saying this is hands of India in this protest, and few saying India is completely condemning that. But the youth in Bangladesh has a horrendous act and expressed a strong concern about the safety of minority and communities in the neighboring countries. So, ఏదైతే last few days గా protest జరుగుతున్నాయి, and after his death, had his death, there's a lots of discussions. So, what happened? ఈ లించింగ్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, ప్రొటెస్ట్ ఏదైతే ఉన్నాయో, బర్నింగ్ ఆఫ్ దీస్ న్యూస్ పేపర్స్ అండ్ హెడ్ ఆఫీసర్స్ ఎక్సెట్రా, దిస్ ఆర్ లాట్స్ ఆఫ్ అన్రెస్ట్ గోయింగ్ ఆన్, అండ్ yes, it will definitely a challenge for neighboring nation కదా. It will give sharp exchanges and differences and impact on the relations, as well as there's a lots of propagandas going on. So we are condemning them, and lots of disturbances going on that, and because of that again threat to killings and mob lynching, all these aspects jarutunai. It's again highlighting about that incident, and I'm not going into that much detail what's happening, how these politics shaped since 2024 and what happened since December 8, and how this guy shot dead, and how he airlifted to Singapore and he lost his life there. Since then the protest more worsen avanni nenu touch cheyaledu because previous articles lo manam clear ga discuss chesam. And railways to hike fare from December 26, Congress slams this decision. See, the one who already booked the tickets is no need to, the same will be, the prices will be the same as TC, but the one who is going to book after December 26, definitely the charges are high. So there is no increase in the monthly seasonal tickets of suburban trains and up to 215 km traveling in ordinary class of other trains and etc. But this will be applicable to the one who is going beyond 215 km. So obviously it is the move criticizing by the Congress leader, and unofficially circulating to press persons the note was being. So it's a government increasing fares just before the annual budget in one thing, and whenever there's a price hikes or something, you should have to do it in a budget session. You suddenly can't do it. This is what they're talking about. So meat owner in UP attacked on suspicion of carrying bean. It's a kind of mob lynching. Last few times we have discussed a lot about this mob lynching gani, horror killings gani. This is something again related to that. So 2 people were arrested in Aligarh, Uttar Pradesh, after a meat shop owner was attacked on suspicion of transporting the beef. So this is something related to that. And yes, President grants assent to rural jobs bill. Government list 4 focus areas for workers. So Vikasit Bharat guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika mission is a forward step from NREGA. Lots of pros and cons we are discussing last few days. So here he is clearly saying it is a forward step and has been reserved under scheme something around 151,282 crores for the development of the villages, as well as he is saying the 4 focus areas would be definitely going to change, bring the structural changes to the scheme while increasing the number of guarantees days. See, NREGA created works, while VB G Ramji would create outcomes. So works under this scheme would be undertaken across 4 focus areas. Those are water scarcity, core rural infrastructure, livelihood related infrastructure, and extreme weather mitigation. So these are the ones which they are focusing. And Revant invites KCR for assembly debates regarding this Krishna projects. So this is one highlight about that. And yes, here is the most important article of the day. I told you sometimes they give the gist related, and actually these comes in your digital version, digital page lo available untai. So this is related to health, and again this is something related to intimate partner violence is under recognized public health crisis. Now it high time to focus on that. We have discussed about marital rape we have discussed about, domestic violence we have discussed about, abuse, everything. This is something new which we for the first time coming across such concept. So let's see. Intimate partner violence is an insidious exposure that accumulates over years, shaping mental illness, non-communicable diseases, and long-term disability rather than presenting as a single identifiable event. And domestic violence is no longer a social issue but a risk factor that impacts health. So domestic violence is directly indirectly related to health risk, that too which lasts for the long time. So studies show that women come to outpatients department repeatedly with non-specific complaints that do not resolve, chronic pain, tiredness, inability to sleep, etc. But medical students are not trained enough to look after that, and they don't understand that this is happening because of domestic violence అని. ఈ ఆర్టికల్లో కంప్లీట్ క్రక్స్ ఆఫ్ ద ఇష్యూ చాలా డీటెయిల్ గా చెప్పారు. సో రీఫ్రేమింగ్ ఇంటిమేట్ partner violence as a public health and chronic disease issue matters. It shifts the focus away from isolated incidents and moral judgments toward it being seen for the long-term disabilities. And without that shift, the health system will continue to manage diabetes, heart diseases, anxiety, depression, while remaining blind to the violence that fuels them. So because of this violence, these are the list of events which happens. So here they have taken a case study relevant to Meera, and she was something around 34 years. She needed medical help. She is a mother of two who repeatedly came to doctor, and she tired of going to different departments in the hospital but not aware of what actually the reason for the problem she is facing. So she came back normal every time, even after going through all the scans and reports and everything, but she is not aware about what happening, because most of the times when people come like this woman, those who come to hospital and then they either come with their husbands or in-laws, and behalf of these women, husbands and in-laws are the one who answers. So it's not possible for them to come out with the reality and the original what happened అనేది నిజాలు చెప్పకుండా సగం దాచి చెప్తారు కదా. సో దాని వల్ల కూడా డాక్టర్స్ కి చాలా సార్లు ఏం జరుగుతుంది, ఎలా చెప్పాలి అనేది కూడా తెలియదు. అండ్ మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్లీ వెన్ ఉమెన్ ఆర్ కమింగ్ అగైన్ బికాజ్ రిగార్డింగ్ దిస్ ఏది ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఏదైతే చెప్తున్నారో, ల్యాక్ ఆఫ్ స్లీప్, యాంగ్జైటీ ఇష్యూస్, బ్యాక్ పెయిన్, ఇవన్నీ కూడా these are not symptoms of any diseases. These are common, you can iron deficiencies or some vitamin deficiencies and చెప్పి every time they are giving some supplements, and again she is coming back with the same repeated problem. So what happened when she was the junior doctor who noticed her flinch, and when her husband answers question on her behalf, as I already mentioned, what emerged as a long history of, then she spoke to her in private, and then she came up with a conclusion that it is a result of physical violence, marital rape, economic control and threats. So Meera was not suffering from any not acceptable kind of or collection of symptoms. She was living with untreated post-traumatic stress disorder, and it had taken years for the health system to recognize it. See, she is coming up every time to the hospital, and the one who are assisting or diagnosing clearly saying these are because of lack of vitamins or hemoglobin or iron deficiency or something, but every time they were not able to exactly trigger or understand what the reason or root cause of this problem. When the junior doctor came to understand, okay, these are the reasons because of this, directly indirectly. So ఈ marital rape, domestic violence and ఏదైతే intimate partner violence ఉందో, that is indirectly giving to these all anxiety levels, depression, stress, health disorders, chronic and respiratory related others, finally giving high chances of health risk. So that it is no one is able to understand, because all reports are coming very normal, but she is passing through that tough phase and she is facing that problem, but unable to address, unable to let the doctors even to explain what happened any. So when this Meera's trajectory through India's health system minus what a recent Lancet analysis now describes as a global and yet under recognized public health failure. So drawing on this data from Global Burden Disease Study 2023, the paper identifies intimate partner violence as a significant and measurable contributor to wide range of health outcomes like post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, chronic pain, cardiovascular diseases, gastrointestinal disorders, substance use, sexually transmitted infections and adverse reproductive outcomes. So women at the age of reproductive age in South Asia, the analysis finds that intimate partner violence is a great risk factor for poor health than high fasting, గ్లూకోజ్, ఒబేసిటీ, స్మోకింగ్, ఆల్కహాల్ యూజ్, వీటన్నిటికంటే కూడా ఇంటిమేట్ పార్ట్నర్ వైలెన్స్ ఏదైతే ఉందో దట్ ఈస్ ద మోస్ట్ డేంజరస్ అని చెప్పి ఈ రిపోర్ట్ చెప్తుంది. అండ్ ఇట్ ఎనేబుల్స్ ఏ క్రూషియల్ పారాడైమ్ షిఫ్ట్. డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ is no longer a social issue but a risk factor that impacts health. So it's a global issue now. And intimate partner violence is an insidious exposure that accumulates over years, shaping mental health, mental illness, non-communicable diseases, long-term disability, rather than presenting as a single unidentifiable event. So finally, AK Jayashree, who is head and Department of Community Medicine at the Government Medical College in Kannur, Kerala, she began her career as an volunteering with organizations interacting with a large number of women subjected to intimate partner violence. But when she entered formal medical education as a teacher in 2009, then she understood, okay, how little of this knowledge had translated into training. So what was being taught at medical students neither reflected the realities, and it is something completely irrelevant, and what happening at the ground level is completely not at all relevant to the training which they are taking. So they have to come up. So studies show that women come to outpatient departments repeatedly with non-specific complaints that do not resolve this chronic pain, tiredness, inability to sleep. At medical students are not taught to look for everybody's violence, everyday's violence. So ఏం చెప్తారు, ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ తో వస్తున్నారు, రీజన్ ఇది అయ్యిండొచ్చు, మెడిసిన్స్ ఇచ్చేసి పంపించేస్తున్నారు, బట్ సొల్యూషన్ రావట్లేదు, అగైన్ దే ఆర్ కమింగ్ బ్యాక్ విత్ ప్రాబ్లమ్, repeating the same complaints. So now she understood, okay, domestic violence and intimate partner violence is the reason for this. That's the reason they are coming back again and again. So the students, the juniors and the doctors who were not at all trying to look after this kind of dimension, they were seriously unaware to tackle this issue. So now this has been taken as a serious concern, and it is not taught in clinical subjects that actually shape how doctors practice also. So now it has been taken as a serious issue, and now they started focusing on this. So it is an invisible group. She explains women who continue to live with their partners and do not want to file complaints or leave home. They come with diabetes, hypertension, anxiety, chronic pain, and those who do not recognize what we are seeing. So intimate partner violence remains poorly understood within medicine because it sits at the uneasy intersection of the healthcare, social services, law enforcement, because it's a dimensions which generally don't cover at the medical levels. And now in this article finally she is saying the gap edaithe undo that has to be recognized, and the long term disability, preventable illness edaithe it is causing, it has to be taken care of. And she argues that health system will continue to manage diabetes, heart diseases, anxieties, depression while remaining blind to the violence that fuels them, because violence has to be taken care of, the root cause ade kabatti, then only these kind of activities can be eradicated. And women in the National Medical Council curriculum is one hour lecturer she is working with, and according to her, she is Dr. Nancy, and according to her, gender must be an ongoing conversation brought up again and again in various health contexts. So this needs to make it into the curriculum of nurses, psychologists and other healthcare workers too. And finally she is saying the parameter, the shift, everything, the discussion, the conversation was a nod toward to shift that is now happening, moving intimate partner violence out of the margins of emergency care and social work and into the core of how medicine understands illness, risk and long-term health. Finally, they are saying simply it is the most dangerous than the smoking, obesity, alcohol use, and it has to be taken care of, and the people or the workers or the psychologists who are relevant to take care of these kind of cases has to be trained properly. So this is the one new dimensions which we came across. So this is kind of complete analysis andi. So when you are writing something related to women empowerment or violence or abuse or something related to tackling challenges, issues, society, you can write this as a case study or example. ఇంత ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేసిన తర్వాత దీని మొత్తాన్ని ఒక 2 to 3 lines crux తీసుకొచ్చి you should be able to present. And yes, visibility and inclusion advancing the case of children with disability. So UNICEF report reveals stark disparities in access to rights and services for the nearly 108 million children with disabilities in Asia and Pacific. ఇది highly important article అండి, lots of important facts and reports ఉన్నాయి. నేను దీనికి separate గా article చేసి release చేస్తాను because high chances of appearing this as a question in your mains too. Coming to the editorial part, today all topics highly important అండి. Let's discuss in detail. So this is regarding winter is behind, illness session. Okay, this is completely sum up of all the bills which were introduced in the parliament session this time, winter session of parliament, which had 15 sittings, and how these both parties discussed క్వశ్చన్ అవర్ లో ఏం జరిగింది, జీరో అవర్ లో ఏం జరిగింది, హౌ ప్రొడక్టివ్లీ దే యూటిలైజ్డ్ ద time, and what can be avoided, what can be done properly, and what kind of discussions they went on which is not at all necessary, and what kind of discussions they did really well. And when the opposition questioned about the Delhi's pollution, air pollution issue, massive public health crisis, but the government did not allow it, bills were rushed through, and the role of parliament committees in shaping legislations was remained limited. So these are the few dimensions again they discussed in this, and they clearly mentioned that 10 bills were introduced, 8 were passed by both houses. Notable bills that won parliamentary approval include one repealing or amending dozens of outdated laws, and they're allowing 100% FDI in insurance sector, one facilitating private sector investment in nuclear power by reducing liability of suppliers, importantly major changes of rural employment guarantee scheme, flagship welfare program started by UPA government, and titles of several bills which were in Hindi caused concentration and among members of bills, and these are the few ones. And Ziramzi and insurance bill which is titled Sabka Bhima Sabki Raksha, while the rural employment guarantee scheme, as I already mentioned, Ziramji is the one, and discussions about the Vande Mataram. So these are the few. So the meetings also led to pleasant exchanges where the Congress representatives has accepted the customary invitation for tea by Lok Sabha Speaker and Rajya Sabha Chairman, and this practice is worth continuing building upon. More focus would have been done, and time would have been properly utilized to come up with proper discussions, and this crisis of credibility in Indian elections etc. they have discussed, no? So properly could have done, so that the time and energy could have properly done for the welfare and development of the nation anadi. So yes, beyond the optics, India must push its vision for a shared global order across regions. So this is something related to 3-nation tour edaithe Jordan, Ethiopia, Oman undo. So this is again discussing about the sum up of the 3-day nation tour andi. So here, however, all the 3 countries belong to the global south that India seeks leadership of, and Oman we have signed the CEPA, Cooperation Economic Partnership Agreement, and with other nations, like we have launched these cooperation agreements on renewable energy and water management, and we have strengthened ties, trade, knowledge and technology exchanges with Ethiopia, as well as we have discussed Jordan about the West Asian conflicts and Gaza peace proposals. So now it's focusing more on West Asian as well as global south. So what can be done properly and what you can expect it outcomes, so that for the welfare of the Indian too, economic perspective lo other dimensions lo, what are the especially or what are the outcomes of these visits expected to be helpful for the development of the nation and చెప్పి it's a crux అన్నమాట. సో సిమిలర్ గా దిస్ ఆర్టికల్ అగైన్ రిలేటెడ్ టు ద ఇండియా ఆఫ్రికా ఎకనామిక్ టైస్. ఇక్కడ 2024 నుండి 2025 వరకు కొన్ని ఆర్టికల్స్ గురించి, కొన్ని విజిట్స్ గురించి మాట్లాడారు. నేను మీకు లాస్ట్ టైం చెప్పేటప్పుడు సేమ్ ఇండియా ఎథియోపియా రిలేషన్స్ చెప్పేటప్పుడు క్లియర్ గా చెప్పాను. లాస్ట్ ఇయర్ హౌ హీ విజిటెడ్ డిఫరెంట్ నేషన్స్ related to African nations, and how he is focusing on strengthening people to people connectivity, rare earth metals, semiconductors, technology, defense, health, maritime security ani. Similarly, the article is crux of all the events which India is having with African economies. So it's highly important, lots of important keywords, terminologies and synopsis inputs icharu. I'll add this slide in our official Telegram channel andi. Try to download and copy paste all the important points. It's highly important article. So as part of 5-nation tour including Trinidad and Tobago, Argentina, Brazil in 2025, now in December 2025 his recent visit to Ethiopia, Jordan, Oman witnessed a fresh momentum in India's relationship with various African countries, and testament to this entry of the African Union as a full-time member of the G20 during India's presidency term in 2023, as well as India-Africa share a long history of cultural affinity, political solidarity, and their relationship has increasingly been shaped by different economies in recent decades. These kind of words you have to write it in your main Sunday. So, financial year 24, India's exports to United Nations and European Unions constituted around 40%, giving the rising unpredictability of these markets and threat to potential of slowdown. India looks to other markets, particularly African countries. So African economies ki, especially Africa, India ki, India Africa ki equally important. How anadi ikkada trade related ga dollar billions enni, exported goods worth ఏంటి, key destinations like Nigeria, South Africa, Tanzania, petroleum products, engineering goods, pharmaceuticals, rice, textiles were some of the major goods exported. And in 2024 Africa's imports from India were around 6% of its total imports. And China is also Africa's largest trading partner. సో ఆఫ్రికా, చైనా, ఇండియా రిలేషన్స్ 3 మాట్లాడుతూ, ఇంపోర్ట్స్ ఎక్స్పోర్ట్స్ మాట్లాడుతూ, కేటగిరీస్ మాట్లాడుతూ, హౌ ఈచ్ వన్ ఈ సపోర్టింగ్ ఈచ్ అదర్ అని చెప్తున్నారు. అండ్ ద రికగ్నైజింగ్ నీడ్స్ టు క్యాచ్ అప్, ఇండియా హ్యాస్ ఆల్రెడీ సెట్ ఎ టార్గెట్ ఆఫ్ డబ్లింగ్ ఇట్స్ ట్రేడ్ విత్ ఆఫ్రికా బై 2030. దట్ ఈస్ ద మేజర్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ పాయింట్ which you have to write it in your notes. And here is a 5-point strategy that may enable India to fulfill its target when it's comparing to China. For example, the first strategic pillar 5 చెప్తున్నారు కదా, ఫస్ట్ స్ట్రాటజిక్ పిల్లర్ షుడ్ ఫోకస్ ఆన్ రిమూవింగ్ ట్రేడ్ బ్యారియర్స్, ఎంగేజింగ్ మోర్ ఆన్ నెగోషియేషన్స్. Second pillar should aim to move from low value commodity exports to a two-way value added and cross border joint venture manufacturing. So most of all focusing on demand, industrial demand, consumer basis, as well as traditional exports beyond petroleum, etc. So finally, third most important pillar, which is prioritizing the scaling up of line of credits and improving accessibility to trade finance. So giving more chance to MSME segment, unlike the European and American markets where MSME find it difficult to gain a foothold. So ensuring easy access to trade finance is critical in achieving sustainable trade relationship with the continent. So India has to come up with the strategies where it can reduce the risk for small or medium enterprises, and it can develop the terms projects, etc., long term projects, etc. Fourth major pillar which is they're talking about is should focus on lowering freight and logistics cost by investing in port modernization, hinterland connectivity, and in developing India African maritime corridors. Because ఏదైతే ఆఫ్రికా ఇండియా maritime ఉందో, if they develop more పోర్ట్ రిలేటెడ్ గా, ఇన్ఫ్రాస్ట్రక్చర్ రిలేటెడ్ గా, ఆటోమేటిక్లీ ట్రేడ్ అయితే ఈజీ అవుతుంది. దట్ విల్ సేవ్ టైమ్ అండ్ ఎనర్జీ అండ్ దట్ విల్ స్ట్రెంథెన్ ద ఎకానమీ టూ. సో ఫైనల్లీ స్ట్రాటజిక్ పిల్లర్ which they are talking about, fifth one is scaling up of services, digital trade, people to people links. It's essential that India leverages its strength in information technology, healthcare, professional services, skill development to boost service exports. So goods services ante important, service exports kuda ante important. So current policy measures fall short in enabling services trade with African economies. This has to be done with proper considerable improvement in this regard. This is what they are talking about. And finally, the role for the Indian public sector is simple: strengthening investments in Indian firms in African manufacturing, agro processing, infrastructure, renewable energy, critical emerging technologies, etc. And multiple factors including bureaucrat hurdles, political instability, financing cost actors, barriers for the Indian firms to invest in Africa edaithe undo has to be taken care of. Finally, India's engagement with Africa must go beyond transactional trade and move towards building long-term sustainable partnership. And the time is right for India to recalibrate, innovate, deepen its economic footprint across the African continent. This is what they are talking about. So simple ga cheppalante, India Africa edaithe relations unnayo, strengthening their strong ties, and equally China has the market with these two nations. So how we have to utilize, what are the challenges ahead, how we utilize the opportunities, what can be done properly so that their economies can be having strong, sustainable, good connectivities anadi. So this is all about this article andi. And yes, let us to the editorial chadavandi. It gives very good opinions what's happening around, how you can think in a diversified way anadi oka thought vastundi. This one highly important andi. The bulldozer demolition of NREGA. ఇందులో నేను మీకు ఆల్రెడీ చెప్పాను, the one who introduced the bills definitely talks about pros and the one who opposes the bills definitely talks about cons. So ఇక్కడ pros cons రెండు విని you develop an unique perspective and then you present it in your answers in a very balanced, constructive way. So ఇక్కడ ఆల్రెడీ ఏదైతే నెరేగా ఎవల్యూషన్ మనం ఆల్రెడీ జీరామ్జీ ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేసినప్పటి నుండి మాట్లాడుతున్నామో, ఆర్టికల్ సోనియా గాంధీ గారు ఇచ్చారు కాబట్టి డెఫినెట్లీ ప్రోస్ అండ్ good results of how NREGA helped for the upliftment of the society and development of the economy of the nation అనేది మాట్లాడతారు. సో ఇక్కడ ఏం చెప్తున్నారు, నరేంద్ర మోడీ గారి గవర్నమెంట్ ఏదైతే ఉందో, ఇట్స్ సింప్లీ బుల్డోజింగ్ and it's simply questioning, and it has started since last 1.5-2 years, and now it's finally eradicating the very right based and rights of the కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ ని క్వశ్చన్ చేస్తున్నారు, రైట్స్ ని క్వశ్చన్ చేస్తున్నారు, ఎకానమీని డిస్టర్బ్ చేస్తున్నారు, స్టేట్స్ బడ్జెట్ ని డిస్టర్బ్ చేస్తున్నారు. మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్లీ ద వల్నరబుల్ సెక్షన్స్ ఆఫ్ ద సొసైటీ ఏదైతే వాళ్ళది బార్గెనింగ్, లేబర్ చార్జెస్ క్యాపబిలిటీస్ ఉన్నాయో, రైట్స్ ఉన్నాయో వాటిని మీరు లాగేసుకుంటున్నారు. ఆప్ చీన్ రహే హో కైండ్ ఆఫ్ ఈ డైమెన్షన్స్ మాట్లాడారు. సో డ్యూరింగ్ మన్మోహన్ సింగ్స్ ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్స్ టెన్యూర్ యాజ్ ఎ ఫస్ట్ టెన్యూర్ ఉంది కదా, అప్పుడు rights based legislation inspired by article 41 of the constitution of India, they introduced NREGA and this became a reality in 2005. So last 20 years ga, 2 decades ga, it's seen a wonderful rise. Now you are questioning this another article and how you are contaminating the very thought and essence of the scheme itself another she presented. So over the past few days, Narendra Modi's government is trying to give this NREGA different name, abolition without any discussions, consultations and respect for the parliamentary process or center-state relations. You directly introduced all these things. But when we introduced NREGA, we went on 13 months process with public consultations, extensive process of discussions chesi, then both the houses of the parliament has passed this bill enthusiastically and unanimously. So now you can understand, అప్పుడు మేము ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేసినప్పుడు 13 months of extensive discussions చేసి all levels of experts were involved in introducing this, and this is the world's best program which is giving support to both social welfare and economy. So how you can question this ani? And she talked about 2 schemes which really helped every section of the society during even the pandemic. That is one NREGA and second one is Food Security Act of 2013. So here in this article again she is saying right from its conception, NREGA was envisioned as more than a mere scheme, a guaranteed employment based on actual demand from rural families and identifying the 60 days edaithe undo of peak agricultural season where no work shall be undertaken. That is again a problem. Budget allocations and predetermined budgets were again a problem. It's giving a huge financial burden to the states, as well as the laws, the rules, the rights which we were discussing about and which we were talking about the base money, that's again the question mark. So NREGA exempted state governments from most of the financial burden because of 90-10 ratio. మనకు తెలుసు కదా, స్కీమ్స్ వచ్చేటప్పుడు మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద టైమ్స్ సెంట్రలీ ఫండెడ్ స్కీమ్స్ కన్సిడర్ 90:10, అంటే 90% ఆఫ్ షేర్స్ అండ్ 10% ఆఫ్ షేర్స్ అని ఫండ్ అలొకేషన్స్ అని అది మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. నౌ బికాస్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ ప్రీ డిటర్మైన్డ్ బడ్జెట్స్ అండ్ స్టేట్ రెస్పాన్సిబిలిటీస్ discouraging states from providing work under the scheme, as well as finances of states already under severe stress, like Kerala, recent example of article చదివాం కదా, how Kerala is facing the deficit ani. So it will again giving the trouble to the other states also అని ఇవి చెప్తున్నారు. As well as she is also talking about other dimensions, and NREGA has been the most powerful social security intervention in the disposal of the government. Why you are doing this and మాట్లాడుతూ it has secured better wages for crores of citizens, stemmed seasonal distress, migrations, hugely empowered gram panchayats, social audits conducted by the gram sabhas brought about a new culture of accountability, and it has even given the power to the gram sabhas. Now you again wo bhi aap chhin le rahe ho. So what it is all about? And he is questioning the most fundamental right to vote is under unprecedented assault. The right to information has been desecrated with legislative changes that weaken the autonomy of the information commissions. Act for ill-defined personal information data, that is the one. Right to education has been undermined by the National Education Policy 2022. And again, Forest Rights Act 2006 was markedly weakened by the Forest Conservation Rule 2022, which removed Gram Sabha from any role in permitting diversions for the land. And right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation, resettlement Act 2013 has been significantly diluted. The National Green Tribunal set up in October 2010 following the passage of National Green Tribunal Act 2010 has been emasculated. Through the 3 black formulas, the government attempted to deny farmers the right to minimum support price. Even the National Food Security Act 2013 is very next on the chopping block. So what you are doing with all the acts which were introduced for the benefiting of the society, now because of the reasons, because of the changes, because of the reforms you are bringing, it is questioning the very objective of the scheme or act. So these are the list of acts which were highly questioned by the opposition. This is what they are saying, and because of the reforms, this is losing the very essence of this అంటే ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేయడానికి ఏదైతే రీజన్ ఉందో దాన్ని మొత్తం మీరు చెరిపేస్తున్నారు. అండ్ బికాస్ ఆఫ్ యూ reforms which you introduced, it is directly questioning the very objective of the scheme అని చెప్పి చెప్తున్నారు. Finally, NREGA realized Mahatma's vision of Sarvodaya and the welfare of all and enacted the constitutional right to work, and its death is our collective moral failure. It should not be done. It is the one that will have financial and human consequences for crores of India's working peoples for years to come. It is imperative now more than ever to unite and safeguard the rights that protect us all is very much important. So you think from that perspective అని చెప్పి చెప్తున్నారు. ఒక మాటలో చెప్తున్నారంటే నరేగాతో పాటు ఏదైతే 100 days to 125 days అంటున్నారు ప్రాక్టికల్లీ నాట్ పాసిబుల్, ఏదైతే స్టేట్స్ బడ్జెట్ అంటున్నారో దట్స్ అగైన్ గివింగ్ బర్డెన్, అండ్ ఏదైతే రైట్స్ డిమాండ్ బేస్డ్ టు సప్లై బేస్డ్ వెళ్తుందో అది కూడా డెఫినెట్లీ క్వశ్చనింగ్ ద రైట్ టు వర్క్ అండ్ వెరీ బేసిక్ రైట్ ఆఫ్ దిస్, అండ్ ఇట్ విల్ అగైన్ డిస్టర్బింగ్ ద వెరీ ఎకనామిక్ స్టెబిలిటీ ఆఫ్ ద పీపుల్ హూ ఆర్ డిపెండెంట్ అపాన్ దిస్. అండ్ ఇవన్నీ మాట్లాడుతూ నెరేగాతో పాటు నెరేగాకున్న ప్రోస్ అండ్ కాన్స్ తో డిస్కస్ చేస్తూ how it evolution started since then introduction and how this Modi's government is changing, and not only NREGA, what are the other schemes and acts which they diluted అన్నది ఈ ఆర్టికల్ లో చెప్పారు. ఇది కూడా యాడ్ చేస్తా, నోట్స్ రాసుకోండి. తమిళనాడు sir, unusual patterns in deleted electoral list. Several areas show abnormal deletions in categories such as gender and for no reason such as does. So analysis of chief electoral officer Tamil Nadu ఏదైతే ఉందో list of 97 lakh deleted electoral rolls in Tamil Nadu reveals several anomalies that require closer examination. అయితే డేటా ఇచ్చారు, 14 స్టేషన్స్ ఎలా ఉన్నాయి, 35 స్టేషన్స్ ఎలా ఉన్నాయి, 72 స్టేషన్స్ ఏంటి, 3904 పోలింగ్ స్టేషన్స్ లో ఏమవుతున్నాయి, వాట్ ఆర్ ద అదర్ డైమెన్షన్స్, వాట్ ఆర్ ద టాప్ 5 స్టేషన్స్, యంగ్ డెత్స్ ఎక్కువ నోటీస్ చేసింది ఏది, అండ్ హయ్యర్ జెండర్ బయాస్ నోటీస్ చేసింది ఏంటి, హయ్యర్ డిలీషన్ రేట్స్ అబ్నార్మల్లీ చేసిన టాప్ 5 స్టేషన్స్ ఏంటి, ఎక్సెసివ్ డెత్ రిపోర్ట్స్ వచ్చింది, హై డెత్ ప్రపోర్షన్స్ వచ్చింది, ఆల్ డిలీషన్స్ డ్యూ టు డెత్ వచ్చింది, మాస్ అబ్సెంట్ క్లాసిఫికేషన్ వచ్చింది, highly number of women shifted because of unusually polling stations with an all these observations, top 5 stations details ఇచ్చారు. మీకు అంత ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఉండి ఓపిక ఉంటే చదువుకోండి. ఎగ్జామ్ కి ఇది అంత అంటే మెయిన్స్ కి అంత ఇంపార్టెంట్ కాదు, ప్రిలిమ్స్ కూడా ఏ టాప్ 5 స్టేషన్స్ లో ఏంటి రీజన్ అని అడుగురు. బట్ అఫ్ కోర్స్ వెన్ యూ ఆర్ రైటింగ్ సంథింగ్ రిలేటెడ్ టు సర్ యూ కెన్ రైట్ దిస్ యాజ్ అన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్. సో లెసన్స్ ఫ్రమ్ చైనా ఆన్ టాక్లింగ్ పొల్యూషన్, ఇది చాలా 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 ఇంపార్టెంట్. ఇది కూడా మస్ట్ అండ్ షుడ్ గా రాసుకోండి. ఇది ఏం చెప్తుందంటే ఇండియాకి ఎలాగైతే ఎయిర్ పొల్యూషన్ ప్రాబ్లం ఉందో చైనాకి కూడా అలాగే ఉంది. బట్ చైనా ఓవర్ ద ఇయర్స్ హ్యాస్ టాకిల్డ్ ఇట్ అండ్ ఓవర్కమ్ because of the initiatives which has taken, and they successfully implemented it. Because of that results proper గా వచ్చాయి. మనం అసలు సగం ఫోకస్ చేయడంలో ప్రాబ్లం ఉంటది, ఇన్వాల్వ్ చేయడంలో ఆర్ ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేయడంలో ఇంకో ప్రాబ్లం ఉంటది, ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేసిన ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ లో ఇంకో ప్రాబ్లం ఉంటది. వీళ్ళు ఏంటంటే వెర్టికల్ ప్లానింగ్ ఉంటుంది, బాటమ్ అప్ టాప్ బాటమ్ అప్రోచ్, బాటమ్ టాప్ అప్రోచ్ ఉంటుంది. Every section of the society, every sector of the society, every organization relevant to the government and as well as people's participation ఉంటుంది. And they came up with few different schemes and initiatives which successfully implemented and pollution control వచ్చింది. And we can take them as an example, and if we do focus we can also, and what India can borrow from them అన్నది ఈ ఆర్టికల్ చెప్పారు. ఇందులో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ 2013 నుండి 2021 వరకు how Delhi continues to rank among the world's most polluted cities, how is Beijing is breathing easier, and what are the observations and what are the common challenges and what are the outcomes because of which, and two major policy drives ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, the air pollution prevention and control action plan and the blue sky protection campaign ఏదైతే ఉందో, because of which Beijing's transformation was neither accidental or incremental, it was a planned, properly planned and executed action plan అని చెప్పి చెప్తున్నారు. And Beijing's strategy was anchored in 3 features, that is coherent policy, strict enforcement, regional coordination. The government expanded electrical mobility, shut down or located hundreds of polluting industries, replaced thousands of coal-fired boilers with natural gas, as well as imposed stringent China 6 vehicular emission standards, built one of the world's densest PM 2.5 real-time air quality monitoring systems, imposed substantial penalties for the non-compliance. So these are the initiatives. You can happily copy-paste all these initiatives in your current affairs notes and you can quote them in your mains answers. And most importantly, India does not lack environmental assets. That's what I said. But from the shortage of coherence in implementing them. అదే కదా ప్రాబ్లం. మనకి ఉన్నాయి, ఎయిర్ ప్రివెన్షన్ కంట్రోల్ యాక్ట్ ఉంది, ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్ ప్రొటెక్షన్ యాక్ట్ ఉంది, పొల్యూషన్ కంట్రోల్ బోర్డ్స్ ఉన్నాయి, ఫ్యాక్టరీస్ యాక్ట్ ఉంది, మోటార్ వెహికల్స్ యాక్ట్ ఉంది, నేషనల్ గ్రీన్ ఎయిర్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఉంది, గ్రేడెడ్ రెస్పాన్స్ యాక్షన్ ప్లాన్ ఉంది, ఆడ్ ఈవెంట్ రేషనింగ్ ఉంది, కన్స్ట్రక్షన్ బ్యాన్స్ ఉన్నాయి, డస్ట్ కంట్రోల్ రూల్స్ ఉన్నాయి, క్రాప్ రెసిడ్యూ మెసేజ్ ఉన్నాయి, వర్క్ ఫ్రమ్ హోమ్ అడ్వైజరీస్ ఉన్నాయి, ఢిల్లీ ఎయిర్ పొల్యూషన్ మిటిగేషన్ ప్లాన్ 2025 ఉంది. ఇన్ని ఉన్నాయి. బట్ వాళ్ళకి మనకి డిఫరెన్స్ ఏంటంటే వాళ్ళు ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేశారు, మనకి అక్కడ గ్యాప్ ఉంది. పాలసీ మేకింగ్ కి ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ కి గ్యాప్ ఉంది. డివైడ్ ద గ్యాప్ విచ్ ఈస్ really important to fill. So the core difference between the two approaches lies in governance, enforcement and coordination. That's what I said just now. So again they have come up with few observations. China has made large sustained investment in clean energy, electric mobility, industrial relocation. Delhi's own industrial relocation attempts such as the Bhavana project. ఇవన్నీ మాట్లాడుతూ ఫైనల్లీ వాట్ కెన్ బి డన్ అండ్ వాట్ వీ కెన్ డ్రా ఫ్రమ్ దమ్ అని చెప్పేసి 5 reasons చెప్పారు. First one, governance must shift from episodic responses to a long-term sustained mission-oriented strategy and treat air pollution as an immediate health emergency. అది ఒకటి చెప్పారు. And most importantly, ఇంకొక రీజన్ సెకండ్ ఏం చెప్పారు, India must accelerate its transition to clean energy. Third most important, transport reforms must be enforced, not merely introduced. Introduced ఎవరైనా చేస్తారు, అనౌన్స్మెంట్స్ ఎవరైనా చేస్తారు, enforcing is what you are lacking, so focus on enforcement అని చెప్తున్నారు. And fourth one, industrial policy must shift from relocation on paper to functional industrial zones. పేపర్ మీద రాసి ఇవ్వడం కాదు, ప్రాక్టికల్ ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయండి అని చెప్తున్నారు. అండ్ ఫైనల్లీ ఎయిర్ పొల్యూషన్ మస్ట్ బి గవర్న్డ్ యాజ్ ఎ రీజనల్ ప్రాబ్లమ్. బీజింగ్, టియాంజిన్, హేబీ స్టైల్ ఎయిర్ షెడ్ మోడల్ షుడ్ గైడ్ ఢిల్లీ, నార్త్ ఎన్సీఆర్ రీజన్. సో ఇక్కడ ఢిల్లీ ఏంటి, న్యూ ఢిల్లీ ఏంటి, నేషనల్ క్యాపిటల్ రీజన్ ఏంటి, ఈ డిఫరెన్స్ తెలియాలి మీకు. సో జస్ట్ గో త్రూ వన్స్ ద బేసిక్స్. సో దిస్ ఇస్ ఆల్ అబౌట్ దిస్ ఆర్టికల్ అంటే. And these are just self-explanatory, exam ki ant important kaadu, but I just thought to update once again. West Bengal police warns against misleading remarks. ఏదైతే రీసెంట్ గా మర్డర్ ఆఫ్ మ్యాన్ ఇన్ బంగ్లాదేశ్ జరిగిందో, someone tried to connect those incident with the lynching of father son duo in Murshidabad. So clearly West Bengal police said such comparisons are highly insightful, factually misleading and intended to disturb the public order. 13 accused persons were promptly arrested in the Murshidabad case. So if you are doing such kind of things, trying to disturb the local communities, we are not going to tolerate any. So that is one. And elephant cough injured in Assam train incident jarigindi kada, 8 elephant lost their life. దానికి relevant గా సెంటర్ is asking for the report. Environment Ministry review measures to address human wildlife conflict. So 28th meeting of the NTCA and 22nd steering committee meeting of Project Elephant brought together officials. Now they are talking about this Project Cheetah, tiger conservation authorities and everything, and they are talking about these ratifications and what are the measures you can talk or give to address these challenges. And these are the few political relevant perspectives, and that's it. This is again highly important. Water scarcity threatens model tribal school in Maharashtra that stemmed seasonal migration. So last 2 decades ago, this school is the one which is working so well based upon hands-on learning and based upon experiential and emphasis on vocational training, agriculture, etc. So children are also prepared for competitive exams. Here 59 children who come to this Jilla Parishad school in Hivali, remote tribal hamlet in Maharashtra. It is the one which is giving inspiration to other model schools, and here the school runs 365 days of the day, 12 hours a day, providing 2 meals to the children, and there are no weekends, no public holidays. The teachers come every day, so the students will learn a lot from them, and the school is really doing well. And because of this, the migrations at that area have dropped down, and the people who belong to these tribals are coming forward to send their kids as students, and so that they can learn well education and they can become good light of the families kind of. But now because of the water scarcity which they are facing, they are fearing about this again, migrations ఎక్కువ అయిపోతాయేమో, drop down of school enrollments అవుతుందేమో. So now they are demanding 2 things, KD dam and solar power. So KT dam or Kolhapur type weir is low cost gravity based riverbed structure developed in Kolhapur that acts as a small dam or barrage to store post monsoon river flow of irrigation and water supply. So ఏదైతే ఈ యూనిక్ స్కూల్ ఉందో విచ్ ఇస్ ఫోకసింగ్ ఆన్ స్టైల్ ఆఫ్ pedagogy, level of engagement of the children and everything, it has been built over 2 years, but because of lack of proper water facility, the very ideology of the school might be getting disturbed and ఇంతకాలం కష్టపడి నిలబెట్టి పడిపోతుందేమో. అలా కాకుండా వాటర్ ఫెసిలిటీస్ పైన ఫోకస్ చేయండి, అదొక్కటే మేము అడుగుతున్నాము. అండ్ ఏదైతే ఏరియా బికాస్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ రాక్ నేచర్ ఇట్స్ నాట్ ఏబుల్ టు store that water facilities and everything. The reason is has hard rock, so the challenge here is the very storage of water itself. So the small dam can be helpful for their survival as well as running of the school successfully అని చెప్తున్నారు. And ISRO set to launch మొబైల్ బ్రాడ్బ్యాండ్ శాటిలైట్. ఆల్రెడీ చెప్పాను కదా, బ్లూబర్డ్ శాటిలైట్ ఏదైతే ఉందో దట్ ఈస్ ఇస్రోస్ అప్కమింగ్ LV-M3 M6 మిషన్ is going to place the Bluebird Block 2 satellites into orbit on December 2024 under a commercial agreement with the US-based AST Space Mobile. So this mission is completely going to deploy next generation communication satellite aimed at providing high-speed cellular broadband directly to the smartphones across the globe. And this is one about this highlight and this one, speedy justice eludes consumers seeking redress against sellers. So long travel, repeated adjournments, mounting backlogs are turning consumer courts into a test of endurance, as well as lakhs of cases are pending in consumer commissions across the country. Vacant post of president, vacant post of members, again at different reasons, other few reasons, and speedy justice enshrined in law remains distant. What can be done? What are the different sections? What are the different outcomes? And what are the thousands of pending matters and lack sufficient staff, modern facilities, which are effectively giving rise to these pending cases, and digital case management systems are the one. So vacancies in judicial and non-judicial post is the one more important reason. So here they have given about a few structural bottlenecks and other reasons. So this is about just pendencies మాట్లాడతాం కదా కన్స్యూమర్ కోర్ట్స్ కి రిలేటెడ్ గా. దిస్ ఇస్ వన్ మోర్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఫ్యాక్ట్. దట్స్ ఇట్ అండి. అండ్ దిస్ వన్ అబౌట్ US again for the second time in this week stopped this Venezuela soil tanker off the coast. Now definitely it's going to be a big news. 1-2 days లో ఆర్టికల్ వస్తుంది, ఇంకా క్లియర్ గా మాట్లాడదాం. I'm trying to cover this newspaper in a multi-dimensional approach, in a very helpful, meaningful, content-oriented approach, but it's really taking lots of time and energy. I'm trying to cover it as much as తక్కువ టైంలో ఎక్కువ కంటెంట్ చెప్పడానికి ట్రై చేస్తున్నాను. బట్ అగైన్ అదే 35-40 మినిట్స్కి వస్తుంది. బట్ టు బి హానెస్ట్ బ్రీత్లెస్ గా చెప్తున్నాం. అండ్ హోప్ దీస్ సెషన్స్ ఆర్ రియల్లీ హెల్ప్ఫుల్ ఫర్ ఆల్ ది సిన్సియర్ ఆస్పిరెంట్స్. మీకు ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉంటే యూ కెన్ హ్యాపీలీ ఆస్క్. టీమ్ డిస్క్ ఈస్ ఆల్వేస్ అవైలబుల్ టు హెల్ప్ ది ఆస్పిరెంట్స్. సో దిస్ ఇస్ ఆల్ అబౌట్ టుడేస్ సెషన్. చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఆర్టికల్స్ ఉన్నాయి, చెప్పినవన్నీ కూడా మస్ట్ అండ్ షుడ్ గా నోట్స్ రాసి పెట్టుకోండి. ఇచ్చిన ఇన్పుట్స్ ని కంటెంట్స్ ని రాసి పెట్టుకోండి. అండ్ స్లైడ్స్ యాడ్ చేస్తే అఫీషియల్ టెలిగ్రామ్ ఛానల్లో చూడండి. రెలవెంట్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ని, మెయిన్స్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ని మన టెలిగ్రామ్ ఛానల్లో అప్లోడ్ చేస్తాను. ప్లీజ్ ట్రై టు అటెండ్ దెమ్. హ్యావ్ ఎ ఫ్యాంటాస్టిక్ డే. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్.